Hey, this video contains spoilers for Dragon Ball Super Superhero and the Dragon Ball Super manga. So if you're not caught up, probably save this for later. Thanks. Hello, my name is Joe and welcome to my channel. You know guys, I recently read the whole Dragon Ball Super manga and I'm just gonna say it, I prefer the manga to the anime. At least when it comes to a lot of the story beats. I'll admit the pacing is really rough for a long time in the manga. To be fair though, I think that has to do at least partially with trying to keep up with the pace of the anime. I mean, the first 4 arcs of the manga took 42 chapters, whereas the next 2, the ones after the Tournament of Power, took 45. And while both of those arcs struggled to stick the landing, they're probably my favorite arcs in Super so far. However, as I was reading the manga, I thought of something and haven't been able to get it out of my head since. I realized that when you look at the storyline, Gohan should have been the one to learn Ultra Instinct. And I don't mean in the sense of, oh, Gohan should have been the main character of Super. I mean, yes, he should have been. Super should have just been the Great Saiyaman show in my opinion. But that's beside the point. What I mean is that the manga's explanation of Ultra Instinct makes it so Gohan would have been a more narratively satisfying character to have achieved it. Before I get into that though, I'm having a little tournament in my community tab between some of Super's strongest non-God of Destruction and Angel characters. Also, no fusions, cause Potara is OP. If you've got passionate feelings about this topic, as I feel many Dragon Ball fans do, go check it out. January 15th is the last day to vote on the first 2 polls and determine the first match in round 2. Anyway, back to the video. Before I get into explaining why Gohan getting Ultra Instinct would be a more satisfying story, I need to give some context for people who might have just jumped into the manga after the anime ended. In the anime, Goku unlocks Ultra Instinct after withstanding and absorbing the energy of the Spirit Bomb that he planned to use against Jiren. This energy allowed him to break past his limits and unlock this new form. So when I say Gohan should have gotten Ultra Instinct, you probably would think that doesn't make much sense, which is fair. In the manga, well, none of that happened. There wasn't a Spirit Bomb in the whole tournament, and Goku didn't need to absorb excess energy to break past his limits. Rather, in the manga, it's heavily implied that Goku knew about Ultra Instinct and was actively seeking for Whis to teach him how to do it, maybe even having begun the training before he needed to return to Earth to be a farmer. Goku tries to overcome his barrier to using it through powering up past his body's limitations, but that doesn't work. The technique is instead portrayed as the ultimate culmination of all of Goku's master's teachings, and he's only able to unlock the ability after Roshi reminds him that martial arts isn't about becoming more powerful than your opponent, but surpassing the person you used to be. I actually really like this moment, even though it made my power scaling brain hurt, because it put Ultra Instinct into the context of Goku continually improving as a martial artist, rather than just getting stronger and stronger. Plus, it had a very sweet moment of Goku's appreciation toward Roshi as one of his first and arguably most important masters. So at this point in the series, it still makes more sense for Goku to have UI than Gohan. Goku has always been more of a martial artist than Gohan is, but it also makes more sense as something Gohan could possibly learn. But it's in the Moro arc where we really see why the story beats would have Gohan as the better character to learn this technique. The Moro arc is interesting. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like the King Piccolo arc, the Frieza arc, and the Cell arc all rolled into one. And while I think the King Piccolo similarities were my favorite part of the arc, it's the Cell arc aspects that made me want to make this video. In particular, there are 2 really notable parallels with this arc and the Cell games. One, with Goku giving a Senzu Bean to the main villain, which, Goku, stop doing that, it has worked in your favor exactly 1 time. Although, to be fair, that one time it did work, ended up scoring him the ally that is just continually saving his son's life, so fair enough. The second, and more notable parallel for this discussion though, is Miras' sacrifice. Miras, a character introduced at the beginning of the Moro arc, was an angel in training essentially, sent to Universe 7 to observe and learn about mortals. However, while angels are supposed to remain neutral, Miras grew to have a sense of justice, breaking away from his initial purpose. In the final battle against Moro, Miro used his angel powers, knowing it would result in him fading from existence. He did this partially to stop one of Moro's most dangerous abilities, but also to inspire Goku to break past his limits and reach a new height. Perfected Ultra Instinct. So basically he's Android 16. A powerful being who broke past his initial programming after coming to care for living beings, who sacrifices themselves to inspire our hero to overcome their mental roadblocks and ascend, despite knowing they can't be brought back to life afterwards. Through the Dragon Balls, at least. Mirrors does come back because even that death has very little meaning. The difference is that Android 16 inspired Gohan to let go and release his rage, whereas Mirrors inspired Goku to do the opposite, to accept that emotional blow and keep control of himself. And there's a reason for that. After Moro regained his power, something that made both Goku and Vegeta unable to defeat him, Goku is taken to a room of spirit and time to train for the equivalent of 6 months with Mirrors. During this time, Mirrors reveals that the truth of Ultra Instinct is that to use it, one must be able to maintain control and centeredness of oneself in the face of intense emotion. To use Perfected UI, the user has to do something that goes against how Saiyans naturally grow in power through the Super Saiyan state. This on its own is cool, and fair enough for Goku. Saiyans do all have this power that they gain from Rage, and Goku was the first to fully showcase that with Super Saiyan. But when you think about it, it's kinda weird that that's an aspect that Goku is struggling with like he does. Out of all the Saiyans, Goku is probably the one who showcased the least amount of struggle when it comes to keeping control of himself when he's angry. The two main instances where we can see this are when the Saiyans attacked and Goku only arrived after most of the Z fighters had died, and then when he turned Super Saiyan. He's clearly angry in both of these instances, and that shows in how he fights, but he's also very in control of himself at the same time. He doesn't get all blinded by rage and immediately attack in anger. Sure, he doesn't have the calm, hard, perfected Ultra Instinct would require, but he is in control. Hell, he's the one who figured out how to master the Super Saiyan state, a transformation triggered by rage to prevent stamina consumption. That is one issue I have with the manga. Goku's characterization isn't great in it, but that's fine, it's okay. Contrast this with someone like Vegeta, who's shown he has a much harder time controlling emotional outbursts. Take for instance when Cell killed Trunks or when Beerus hit Bulma. Vegeta completely flew off the handle and started swinging at people way above his weight class. Compared to that, Goku's like a tranquil river. But let's be honest here. When you think of Dragon Ball and gaining boosts of power through anger, you think of Gohan. From the first few chapters he appeared in, rage boosts have been practically synonymous with Gohan. And while his outbursts have reduced significantly since he became an adult, we see in Super Hero that they are still there, just waiting for something to trigger them. When a technique has some kind of limitation or requirement that the hero has to overcome, the catharsis of the hero succeeding or circumventing that limitation often comes from how contradictory the requirement is from the hero's standard behavior. So while this works for Goku, I feel it would make a much more effective story if it was Gohan's. Having this parallel of both Android 16 and Mira sacrificing themselves to unlock a power within Gohan in such similar ways, yet in completely opposite directions, would have been an amazing story beat. Then, in the Granola arc, there was a really great moment where Goku accepts that perfected UI and its emotional control just doesn't fit who he is, deciding to instead use a less powerful version and fight with his emotions. I loved this moment in the manga, but I would have loved it even more if it was Gohan. After spending so much time trying to tamp down this rage that's been a part of him his whole life, instead accepting it as a part of who he is and channeling it into making him stronger to protect those he cares about. I've dealt with having very extreme emotions my whole life, and it's something that made me really relate to Gohan as a kid. It would have been awesome to see a story about someone at first trying to repress that aspect of themselves before later accepting it and trying to turn it into a strength in Dragon Ball, of all things. Look, don't get me wrong, I like what they're doing in the manga with Goku and Ultra Instinct, especially with Vegeta getting Ultra Ego, the best form name in Dragon Ball, by the way, and I wouldn't even really want Gohan to get UI. I think Gohan Beast from the superhero movie, being something born from his own innate potential, is way cooler. But when I look at what they've shown in the manga, I can't help but think that UI Gohan would have been a more satisfying story. But hey, those are just my thoughts. What do you think? Agree? Disagree? Think Ultra Instinct Gohan is simply too strunk for this franchise? Let me know in the comments down below. And, subscribe. I'm gonna be doing more Dragon Ball stuff, so you might find something you like. Till next time, safe journeys, my friends.